Alright, welcome to Spirit and Muscle. I'm Young Gerald, certified personal trainer. And this week's topic is maingaining, gaining muscle while maintaining your current body fat level. Is this possible in the real world? Let's find out. Alright, welcome back to Spirit and Muscle, where faith meets fitness. I'm Young Gerald, certified personal trainer. There's a lot of controversies surrounding the term maingaining or gaintaining, as it's sometimes called. Some fitness experts say it's the best and healthiest way to gain muscle. Others say it could kill your gains. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what maingaining is, discuss the pros and the cons, and we'll hear opinions from fitness experts like Greg Doucette, Israetel and Jeff Nippard. First, let's define exactly what we're talking about with this word maingaining, which actually made it into the Urban Dictionary this year. Maingaining is eating at your maintenance or near maintenance so as to minimize fat gain while still gaining muscle. It is a consistent and steady health-focused method of gaining muscle, popularized largely by Greg Doucette. Now, when I first heard Greg Doucette talking about maingaining, maybe a year or so ago, he defined it as eating at maintenance calories and slowly building muscle. And yes, that will work if you have enough stored body fat to provide the energy needed to build the muscle tissue. But if you're pretty lean, of course, that approach won't keep working forever. He later clarified that maingaining means keeping your body fat level the same while slowly gaining muscle. In other words, you can eat at a small calorie surplus, enough to gain muscle, but not enough to spill over into fat gain. So you can see why this topic is controversial and confusing to many people. Add to that people trying to maingain at way too low of a body fat level and then complaining that it doesn't work. Here's the bottom line. In my opinion, we have to clarify exactly what we mean when we use certain words. When Greg Doucette uses the word bulking, he means eating over 500 calories surplus and purposely putting on fat. And most of us would call that dirty bulking. And when he uses the word maingaining, he means one of two things. Either eating at maintenance and slowly putting on muscle if you have enough fat stores. Now, most of us would call that recomping. Or number two, eating just over maintenance, maybe 200 or 300 calories, in order to slowly put on muscle and minimize fat gain. Most of us would call that controlled bulking or lean bulking. And when he uses the word cutting, he means severe cutting, severe calorie restriction, or crash dieting. So when Greg says things like, you wouldn't have to cut if you didn't bulk in the first place, we understand that what he really means is you wouldn't have to crash diet and severely restrict your calories and basically starve yourself if you didn't dirty bulk and eat 1,000 calories over maintenance and eat Wendy's and McDonald's every day. So, for the record, let it be now and forevermore that the word maingaining shall mean eating at your maintenance calories or near maintenance so as to minimize fat gain while still gaining muscle, and shall also henceforth carry within said definition the terms recomp and lean bulking. There, that settles it. No more confusion, no more controversy. Okay, now that we're all on the same page, what can we say about the pros and cons of maingaining? Sorry, I'm telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And by the way, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you...
Sorry, I've always wanted to do that. Okay, so as promised, we're going to hear directly from Greg Doucette, Israetel and Jeff Nippard, their pros and cons and what they have to say about maingaining. So let's start with Greg himself.
What if you're a younger guy that's already relatively lean, still maingain, and then someone responds with, Lean bulking is more optimal for muscle growth. You can do periodic mini cuts to help lose any extra unwanted fat and improve insulin sensitivity. But yeah, it is healthier to not do drastic weight changes, i.e. 9-month bulk, 3-month cut. In the long run, maintaining is just as good as bulking and cutting, but healthier. Yo-yo dieting is not healthy. It's better to maintain a weight that you're happy with than to yo-yo up and down. And honestly, what would you rather be? To be happy with your body fat year-round and maintain that 365 days a year? Or to bulk up, get fat for part of the year, and then to diet the other half of the year and look good once a year? If you'd rather bulk up and cut down and look good once a year, then do it. Do it. I'm just telling you what's healthier.
So Greg says maintaining is just as good as bulking and cutting, but healthier. Now remember, Greg's definitions for these terms: maintaining can mean a small calorie surplus, and bulking and cutting means extreme bulking and cutting. And if you notice, he didn't correct that commenter. So I take that to mean that lean bulking with periodic mini cuts may fit within his definition of maintaining. So with that in mind, I agree that maintaining is definitely healthier than extreme yo-yo dieting, and may be just as effective in the long run. We honestly don't know. There's just not enough research, or any research that I'm aware of. So, okay, now let's hear what Jeff Nippard has to say.
I still feel like for intermediate to advanced people, as I said in the original video, I would probably recommend splitting it up into bulking cycle and cutting cycle, assuming your goal is to build as much muscle as possible. And I just want to talk about this for a brief minute and then we'll wrap it up. I've started thinking about the fact that most people may not actually have the goal to build as much muscle as possible. It might not be worth them. It might not be worth it to them to make marginally more gains by bulking because of the fact that they have to add quite a bit more fat and not be quite as satisfied with their physique while doing that. It might be better for them to make marginally less gains but maintain a leaner physique going through the process. And for these people, I think I would recommend more of a body recomposition, or you could call it gaintaining approach. So this is actually something that was really quite popular in the natural bodybuilding community a few years ago. So I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, that Layne Norton and Alberto Nunez both had endorsed this gaintaining approach where they'd stay really quite lean throughout their off season and really just focus on progressively overloading in the gym, adding weight to the bar, and very slowly gaining weight and adding minimal body fat. And I feel like this is actually a perfectly reasonable approach. Now, and I'm actually not even aware of any studies that compare the gaintaining approach, so sort of maintaining your weight, focusing on getting stronger in the gym, maybe very slowly gaining like 1 pound of body weight a month or something like that, versus the bulk and cut approach. I think it would be so cool if we could design, let's say, a year-long study where you have one group do a 6-month bulk and then a 6-month cut, and you have the other group just do a gaintaining approach for a full year. And we could figure out who would actually build more muscle by the 12-month period, because it's not perfectly clear to me which one would come out on top, even though I would expect the bulking and cutting approach to be better.
At first he says for intermediate to advanced people he recommends bulking and cutting. But then he mentions Layne Norton and Alberto Nunez. Both endorse maintaining or gaintaining, and how this is a perfectly reasonable approach. Now let me tell you, Layne Norton and Alberto Nunez are definitely not beginners. They are advanced professional natural bodybuilders. Then he goes on to say, in reality, we don't know which approach is better long term. And it would be cool if we had a study, which I couldn't agree more. His bias is obviously bulking and cutting, but he says honestly, we don't really know for sure. Now let's hear what Dr. Mike Israetel has to say about maintaining.
When you start training, just start eating well, like nutritious foods, plenty of protein, 4 or 5 meals a day. Start training pretty hard, like not psychotically, but harder than last time. Like you keep training harder and harder over time. And then you don't even have to really watch your calories. Your body is automatically going to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, probably for like 6 months, if not longer, like a year. Now, after that year, you might be in a position where you're much more muscular, much leaner, and then you have some choices to make. You can continue to sort of maintain, and that will give you pretty good results. But if you want to get much leaner, you probably have to do a caloric deficit, and then maybe you're 160, a little bit jacked, a little bit lean. You go down to like 150, and then you're like pretty shredded. You're like, holy crap, this is sweet. Then once you're a little leaner or a lot leaner, can you continue to gain muscle at that body fat percent? Yes. Is it optimal? Maybe, unless you want to be a lot bigger. So for example, if you're 150 pounds with pretty clear abs, how do you get to 180 with clear abs? You probably can't maintain your way to that. The most efficient way is going to have to be bulking and cutting, but that doesn't mean super crazy psycho bulking where you eat like 5 cookies an hour and get super fat. It means just generating like a small surplus, 250 extra calories a day, maybe to 500, gaining like half a pound to a pound a week at most. You do it slowly over 16 weeks, and then you're going to have some body fat, plenty of muscle. You do a little bit of a maintenance phase just to kind of get some sort of wind in your sails, because hard training for 16 weeks really beats you up. Then you do like maybe a mini cut or like a 4 to 8 week fat loss phase, get rid of that extra fat, and you go into a slow bulk again. So I'm a real big fan of, if you want to get much bigger, slow bulking is a real good idea. So we got like dirty psycho bulking, we got gaintaining or maingaining. For beginners, I think gaintaining, maingaining is a real great thing. For people that want to get much bigger, something right here is a real good idea. Slow, steady, 250 to 500 calorie surplus, nice and easy.
Clearly, Dr. Mike is not a fan of maingaining for maximum muscle growth. He says it could give you, quote, pretty good results, but once you're pretty lean, the most efficient way is going to be bulking and cutting. But he clarifies he doesn't mean crazy bulking, but an intentional 250 to 500 at the top calorie surplus, followed by periodic mini cuts. Later in the interview, Greg said he was actually surprised they agreed more than he expected. And again, I think all this boils down to how we define these terms. And if you'll notice, Dr. Mike's understanding of the word maingaining is slightly different than Greg. But at the end of the day, they pretty much agree on most things. So what's the takeaway from all this? Maingaining is eating at maintenance or slight calorie surplus. It's the slow, steady, healthy approach compared to extreme bulking and cutting. You keep your eye on your body fat level and the scale each week, and if you aren't gaining any weight, you adjust your calories up a little by 100 or so until you start making progress. If you feel like you're gaining too much fat, you adjust your calories down a little, again, maybe by 100. Dr. Mike talks a lot about hunger levels and how training harder makes some people more hungry, but not always. Honestly, the only way to implement these principles accurately is to track your diet. Now, if you could use a little help in that area, I want to let you know about a free resource I have called the Spirit and Muscle Calorie Calculator Combo. It comes with an online calorie calculator that tells you how many calories you need to eat each day in order to lose fat, or maingain, or lean bulk, or whatever your goals are. It also comes with the top 5 calorie counting apps, so you can start tracking your food intake and make sure you're eating right for your fitness goals. And it comes with the Spirit and Muscle Glycemic Index Food Guide with nutritional recommendations and meal planning ideas to help you make healthy food choices. So if you're ready to take your fitness to the next level, you can get all 3 free resources free by going to spiritandmuscle.com/calories. That's spiritandmuscle.com/calories. So at the end of the day, is maingaining for you? I want to know. So go ahead and let me know in the comments. So what does the Bible say about this topic? Believe it or not, the Bible talks a lot about food. In the Old Testament, food intake was very regulated for the Jews. In the New Testament, we're given a lot of freedom when it comes to food choices. Jesus himself declared all foods clean. You can find that in Mark 7, verse 19. And in Romans 14, verses 2 through 6, Paul confirms the idea of liberty in food choices. The Bible has a word for dirty bulking. It's gluttony. And the Bible warns against gluttony and the lust of the flesh. Proverbs 3:2 and 1 John 2:16 are just a couple verses that deal with those topics. Now, one of the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5 is temperance or self-control. Temperance means moderation or balance or avoiding extremes. Now, you tell me if dirty bulking and severe cutting is extreme. Maingaining is the balanced, healthy approach and therefore gets my stamp of approval for being biblical. Okay, that's it for this week's Spirit and Muscle broadcast. Thank you for joining me. If you got something useful from this video, give me a thumbs up down below, and you can connect with me on social. All the links are in the description. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.